Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Drak Reviews, where today we're taking on a game, once again, that's a highlight from E3 2017, as it was the announcement, or at least the beginning announcement, of the EA Originals program. One of the few things that I still credit Patrick Soderlund for at least doing before he long since retired and is off going and doing his own game. But today we're going to be taking on one of the featured games of the EA Originals, and that was from developer Zoink, called Fe. F-E, Fe. I know that it's a little complicated. I've actually talked to a few people. It's kind of hard to find, but here we go. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Fe is a game where, as far as story is concerned, you play a little woodland creature who is just enjoying his time in the forest, trying to uncover whatever mysteries that he can, when he starts to realize that the forest that he loves so much has been overtaken. And it's been overtaken by aliens? It's not really sure what they are, but they look very alien in design. The way that the developers described this is that it was supposed to be a title with a personal narrative about our relationship with nature, and so a lot of that is built into what you're already discovering. Most of the forest is overrun by these alien creatures, obviously alien to the forest, and it's up to you to go into enemy territory, to go into all of the forest territories that have been overtaken and free the animals within them. And so a lot of your story is going to be going from this territory of the forest to a more cold one, to a more highlands kind of climate, and be able to help out the main featured animals of that given terrain. How do you do that? Well, for the purpose of the game, your character, or your main character, can actually emulate a lot of the sounds that the deer of the forest, the birds of the forest, all of those make, and therefore you can gain the aid, or at least enlist the aid, of those forest creatures to be able to help you in your struggle against the alien creatures. And I'm just going to call them aliens because that's pretty much what they are. As far as story is concerned, I actually really enjoyed it, especially considering that it has a very Journey / Shadow of the Colossus feel. I don't know too much about Journey, but the way that I know how to describe it is it feels a lot like Rime from last year, as well as Shadow of the Colossus. In fact, anybody who is a fan of Shadow of the Colossus, I would recommend that you pick up Fe, because a lot of the narrative design within this feels very Shadow of the Colossus, and I think you personally would enjoy it. But overall, I didn't really take any points off for story. I thought it was enjoyable, especially considering the lack of context. It just made you want to discover more. It made you want to uncover more tablets and figure out what the heck was going on in this forest. Moving on into visuals. For the aesthetic that this game was trying to portray, a lot of people have characterized it as minimal. And I can see why they would characterize that, but unfortunately, a lot of them are characterizing it in a negative way. I wouldn't agree with that. Its minimalistic nature actually helps with telling the story and all of the other elements within the game. A lot of things are basically built with black outlines. If they're deer, they might have like a little white outline for their horns. And all of that works. Its minimalism actually works towards its favor because of the fact that it's an open-ended experience and you're supposed to take what you can from it. And therefore, the overall atmosphere that the game portrays within it works for the storytelling that it's trying to convey. I really didn't take off any points for visuals. The minimalistic nature of it actually made sense in this regard, and I applaud the developer Zoink for keeping it as minimalistic as it was. Moving on into gameplay. So like I explained before, your little woodland creature or sprite or fairy, I know that term's been thrown out a lot. The purpose of him is to be able to unite the forest, and the way he does that is by doing tasks for the various big animals of that forest area and then learning how to emulate their cause or their cries and being able to gain their benefits, instead of having to rely on, say, a friend within that area who can't travel past the area. So at that point, a lot of the gameplay is simply audio-based. You will use these various animal calls to be able to engage different platforming elements to help you traverse a rough mountain or be able to gain contact with a lot of these bigger creatures, and all of it works. The gameplay is a little janky at first, but as I've said in the past, when it comes to a first entry for indie developers, I'm willing to give them a little bit of slack here, because any first creation by them is going to have a few rough edges. It's going to have a couple of sharp points here and there, and that's okay. As long as they don't hurt the overall gameplay experience, and in this case with Zoink, they didn't, I'm willing to give them that leeway. It is a little rough around the edges, but it still plays very well, and it's very engaging. And there were actually a lot of times where I have to try and keep myself to a specific time limit when recording review footage, and I actually fell out of that a number of times when recording stuff for Fee. I kept on feeling way too engaged into it, and so it was very hard to put down. And part of that is because of how fluid the gameplay can tend to be once you've got all the rough curves figured out. Moving on into audio. Since a lot of this game is audio-based, you would think that this would be a definite. And it is, for the most part. I would actually say that its lack of audio is also what helps it. I know that that's a weird thing to judge off of, but I know that Zoink, when they developed this game, they decided to keep kind of a lack of overall noise. Like, there isn't a whole lot of forest noise going on all around you. It's very minimalistic, like the rest of the game. And it works. I know that a lot of people are probably sick and tired of me saying that, but the music score, if there really is one, it's always in tune with the forest, and it's kind of hard to miss unless you're really listening for it. And the music works when it's there, and when it needs to be a little bit more subtle, that works too. But also with the audio commands, that also makes a whole lot of sense within the context of the game. So I've got to be honest, I didn't really take too many points off of audio. Especially given the fact that it's minimalistic at best. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to this game. Moving on into replay value and presentation. Replay value is where I actually find my first little bump in the road when it comes to this review. I enjoyed my time playing Fee, but by the time I was done playing Fee, I was about what looked like 80% through the game. And at that point, there wasn't really a whole lot of motivation for me to go back and finish the game, unfortunately, to go out and get every single thing that I had missed in the previous territories. Not to say that it's bad by any stretch. I think completionists would love the crap out of this game if they got their hands on it. But as far as coming back after you've had the initial playthrough, I can't see that happening right away. I can see that happening a couple of years down the road, 5 years down the road, when you're feeling nostalgic and you want to just play something that's fun. That would work. But again, in the context of how replay value works in this day and age for modern day gamers, that's not really all that applicable. So unfortunately, I've kind of got my hands tied here in the fact that I do need to at least take a little bit of points off. It's at least a one-time playthrough, but if you're really dedicated to it, you might go in for that second one. So a little bit of points were taken off, but not too much. And as far as presentation, does it come together? For this first attempt from Zoink, absolutely it does. The minimalistic nature of the game really helps to apply intrigue to it, to get people engaged in the product, to immerse them into this dark forest that they really want to see their little forest creature friend succeed in his overall goal. And once you get to the ending, you get a feeling of satisfaction for accomplishing that goal, which is why I have no problem giving Fee an 8.5 out of 10. It is a solid first-time venture for Zoink. I look forward to seeing any other product or any other games that they have in the future, especially if it's under the EA Originals tagline. I hate EA overall as a company, but the EA Originals concept has really started to prove very fruitful, especially with future projects coming in 2019. But is Fee worth it? Currently, Fee is available for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and also Nintendo Switch, and it's only available digitally, and the last time I was actually able to check a store price, it was available for $19.99. Is it worth it at that price? Actually, it is. It's actually a really great budget title, and the price really justifies it. If you can get it for cheaper, obviously that's all the better. But for $20, this is definitely worth that price tag, and I have no problem recommending it at that price. And that's going to go ahead and do it for this review of Fee. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for your continued love, support, and patience with the channel. I really do appreciate it. And we'll be back in time for the next review.